Oh, well, we're live, but we are a gray screen for some reason.
Hello, everyone. We're calling from the past. Is it going to
Uh,
repeat my voice over and over and over again?
no, I'd have to unmute that and then it'd start doing that
No
recursion
pants
thing.
update.
I'll just do a local recording and then I'll put it up later. But if people want to listen live, they'll hear our voices in a gray screen.
Yeah, it's there. It's ready for you. All right, I'm recording. From the industrial wastelands of Michigan to the fruited plains of Iowa, this is the American Greed Factory.
Why relate to a sheer perversity?
You are the dead. Remain exactly where you are. Make no move until you are ordered.
Live to ashes and then burn the ashes. That's our official motto.
Now we can see you. Clasp your hands behind your heads. Stand out in the middle of the room. Stand back to back.
Who can explain the fascination of fire? What draws us to it, whether we're young or old?
Here comes a candle to light you to bed. Here comes a chopper to chop off your head.
And welcome to the American Greed Factory podcast. This is Nathan.
This is Conlon.
Tonight we have Eraserhead, wrestling, TV cancellations, and most importantly, stuff. That's Conlon's big get. Stuff. Lots of stuff.
And Frostpunk.
And Frostpunk. Forgot about that. Gonna hear all about that. And more. Or less, depending on what's going on.
And Apocalypse nostalgia or fiction.
Oh, what's that?
The stuff you're working on, or stuff, or the idea.
The general apocalypse.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, the general apocalypse of our lives.
It's my favorite car company.
General apocalypse. The car you need for the end of time.
That's my favorite Marvel villain.
All right, so let's see. What have we done this? You saw? I have not seen Infinity War yet.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I seen it.
What'd you think? Is it worth going to?
Ah.
I've heard mixed things. Like,
It's a weird fucking movie.
yeah,
It's not like it's unenjoyable. I guess I had just high expectations because I remember people kept saying like in the first 20 minutes like you'll be surprised, and then the first 20 I got through like maybe like 45 minutes of the movie. I was like, when's this surprising thing gonna happen?
I'm not yet surprised. I'm vaguely disinterested.
I mean, it's it's fine. It's just kind of, it does a lot, because there's so many fucking characters, so it's kind of like all over the place. But every little compartmentalized thing is done well.
Yeah.
And then like there's the big thing at the end that's like, I guess just weird as shit.
Right.
But I guess the weirdest thing I'd say about it is that really it's not an Avengers movie, it's a Thanos movie.
Okay.
It's almost in some weird way, even though Thanos is evil, he is the hero of this movie.
Right.
Which is weird. And interesting.
Yeah, I've heard he's evil, but not as evil like what you think. Like there's a purpose behind it.
Yeah.
But
Like his reasons for doing it like are maybe he's overreaching, or like he just he's just not very imaginative of solutions. So but he knows this one will work because it works in other places. Like he's already proven his own theory basically.
Oh, okay.
So, but he can't. Yeah, he doesn't trust the world, so he thinks he's gonna save it. But yeah,
Right.
he's not just like, I want to acquire power and be evil and have fun. Like, no, he's trying to, in his mind, he is trying to save the universe.
Right. So they kill everyone off, and then everyone's coming back in the next one or something.
Kind of. I don't necessarily want to ruin it,
Okay.
unless you want me to ruin it.
No, you don't have to. I'm sure me and Grayson will get around to it.
Okay.
We usually do. Last night, because I suggested, it's like, well, we can, there's things we can do, and he decided, well, I want to see Johnny Darko. I was like, okay, that's something we can do. He thoroughly enjoyed that. He's definitely on board with that. So.
Yeah, he's right age for that. So
yeah, it makes sense.
I just need to show him Fight Club.
Yeah, he was watching it. He's like, so what's this, like a story about a school shooter? It's, well, not really. Maybe in the 80s, that version of it. But
this is how the school shooter imagines his life is.
yeah. This is kind of like this is the victimization and indifference that a lot of people think is happening, but it's not really happening. Just like it's not happening here in this movie. But yeah, so that was our movie for this weekend, was Donnie Darko.
Did you have the extra special edition?
Oh yeah, I got like the super edition.
Isn't like Kevin Smith on one of the commentaries for that?
Yeah, there's like 12 commentaries, and the big one is Kevin Smith and why am I drawing a blank? Richard Kidd.
Richard. I haven't even checked on him in a long time. I don't even know, because he did like that box movie like after Southland Tales like failed, but I don't know what he's doing now at all.
Nothing. He's on the hit list.
Oh, okay.
But yeah, that was.
He'll have to go to France to direct some movie.
Yeah, well, he's one of those guys that never. I don't think he fits in.
No compromise.
Yeah.
Admirable.
Yeah, I mean, I enjoyed Donnie Darko. Is a great movie. It's one of the greats. Yeah, this isn't coming through at all.
We need to go back and visit Southland Tales. I remember like watching that movie and I was like, I can see why people hate it, but there's some shit here.
Oh yeah, I loved what was it? I loved Donnie Darko, and I like Southland Tales. But then again, I like movies. I don't have to be completely like entertained the whole time where I don't have to think to enjoy something. I like the video montages and the weird characters. All that stuff was cool. The fact they got The Rock and the other guy to be in it was like, that's nuts. But it was not as good as the sum of its parts. It's one of those movies where it's like, yeah, this is nonsense. I enjoyed it, but yeah, we need to watch that again.
Because I just remember that like where Sarah Michelle Gellar was like a porn star, but she's like, but that's not like, what do you call that? That's not, invalidating of her as like a personality to the world. Like that's totally fine. Like she is like, might as well be like on The View or whatever, but she's also a porn star.
Yeah. What she does.
And then like, the weird stuff with like wireless power and shit like that and how that's affecting the universe.
Fluid karma.
The weird like terrorism and stuff like that. And
it's not explained at all. It's just like nuclear weapons went off in Texas, and there's like a family having a barbecue in a mushroom cloud in the distance. Like, okay, where's this going? Oh, nowhere. Okay.
Justin Timberlake, a world-class singer, lip syncing to a Killers song.
Yeah. Yeah, that was odd. Good song. Yeah. But yeah, it was definitely one of those movies that was, but for the amount of money that went into it and the hype, it was like, whoa. Oh yeah, this will get you.
Well, yeah, it's people trying.
That was the guy in a wheelchair in that one.
Huh?
Kevin Smith played a part in it.
Yeah, he was like some general in a wheelchair or something like that.
Yeah. He
had like a beard and shit like that, and he was like old.
John Larroquette was in it. He was I forget what he did. He was he played some sleazy guy that was making content.
Oh, is he like some corporation
people? Yeah. Yeah, there was a lot of, that was an interesting, we'll have to watch that before you can really get into it. Yeah. There was a whole comic books that went along with it.
Oh yeah, I'm sure there was like an ARG and all that shit that went along with it.
And everyone said, oh, it makes more sense if you read the comics. And it's like, I'll take your word on that one. Yeah. So anyway, Donnie Darko. Good movie for 15-year-olds to watch.
The movie that 9/11 killed as well.
Yeah. Well, it's because Stacy watched it with us, and she was like, "Why did nobody hear about it?" She says, "I thought this was a pretty good movie." She said, "I don't understand why half the stuff's going on." I was like, "Well, don't feel bad. Nobody does." But she was like, "Why did I never hear of this?" I said, "Because this came out the week after 9/11." It's like, yeah, let's go watch some Donnie Darko after this national tragedy. Here's something else you won't understand either. So,
Well, and also there's a whole plane accident in that movie
That's
too.
true.
So.
yeah, because
Which he causes, which I never necessarily put that together, but
yeah, well, it's kind of
well,
There's
you listen to the commentary and he tells you directly. It's like, yeah, Donnie pulled the engine off that airplane,
yeah.
and killed himself to recompense the timelines or whatever. Not sure that's the right word. I just like saying recompense.
It's good. It's a good word.
To join together the universes or whatever, but
Yeah.
and you never really got the idea that like, oh, Donnie Darko's is using his psychic powers to realign the universes.
It was
I
never clear.
never got that from it. But then, David Kelly will just tell you that. It's like, oh, okay. All right. So you
Yeah,
guys,
why not?
you guys didn't have money. I get it.
$4.5 million, and
Most of
Yeah,
it,
Patrick
Most of-
Swayze was in this.
yeah. And Drew Barrymore, she like produced the thing.
Yeah, well, her company funded it too.
Yeah.
And then who else was in this? Oh, Noel Wiley.
Yeah.
There was a lot of people that were in this. Like the lady that played the
president and
gym teacher.
oh yeah, her. I was thinking of I can't remember her name. She plays the president in Battlestar Galactica.
Oh yeah, the Donnie's mom. Yeah.
Yeah.
I can't think of her name. Some Irish sounding name. But yeah. Oh, so we watched that. It's a cool movie for kids.
Cool movie for cool kids.
Oh, Grayson loved. I mean, he still talks about him. He's read all the Southern Reach books now.
Oh, okay.
He reads them at school because he liked Annihilation. He says he never wants to see it again, but he really liked the movie. But yeah, he reads all those books now, so he's getting into some stuff. Took his giant college credit history test this week. It was 4.5 hours. So,
But just one test is 4.5 hours.
yeah, it's basically he's knocking out all his college credits for history classes now.
Okay.
And so I was like, well, what are you going to do when you go to college and you want to study history and you've already taken, because I don't think there's any more advanced history classes he can take in high school, and he's in his sophomore year. Like, he's run through them.
Yeah.
So, because
Right.
they don't teach a lot of that.
Hey, free credits.
Yeah, yeah. Well, $190.
Get your gen eds out of the way. Oh, I mean that is $190. That's yes,
It's probably cheap.
that is literally 20 times cheaper than it actually costs to go to college.
Yeah. So he says he thinks he did fine on it. It was mostly essay,
Yeah.
not much multiple choice, and he said that because he's all fired up about it's like, oh, I know like all the wars from the founding of America to the 20th, to the 20th century. He knows all that stuff like front to back. And it was questions about civil rights movement, the progressive movement of the 70s, women's liberation, and stuff. Like, that's all the test was about, which he said I did fine on it, and I understood what they were asking me, and I gave them the right answers. But it was like there was one question about World War One, and it's like, yeah, it doesn't surprise me. who's hosting that, U of M or something? It's like, yeah, that doesn't, like, there's no history outside of that. I said, just go through it, smile, take the test, get the credit, move on, get to the next screen. That's what it's all about. Pretend it's important. Because, I mean, there's things in history, like, he's super interested and wants to learn everything he can about it. But I don't know. I'm just glad he's doing it.
Yeah.
I'm just glad school's not a nightmare for him. So to enjoy being there. I hated every second of it. they told me I had to go back and sit in a classroom and learn stuff. I was like, well, how about a gunshot wound to the head? Would that be an option? I'd much rather be shot in the face than ever set foot in a classroom again.
I mean, you can be a medical cadaver.
Yeah. That's about the only way you get me back in a school. Can I be a teaching cadaver for the...
Nathan donated his body to science.
Yeah. But, yeah, so that's what he did. That was interesting. We'll find out how he did in a few months.
Months?
Yeah, well, they don't... let's see. When does the school year... I think school ends for him the end of this month.
Yeah.
And then...
Mine just ended, but...
And then he takes... well, then it's all football camps.
Oh.
All the football camps that didn't happen in spring or whatever, they're all being consolidated. I don't know what's going on. I just write checks. It's like, how much? Okay, sure. How many weeks is he gone? So, yeah, that's what summer's all football camps now. As soon as school ends, it's football, football, football. And then we'll find out. I don't know when that... I think the students grade those over at the college, and then we get the results.
Oh, okay. It's like, why does it take fucking...
Oh, because it's like...
Well, I guess if it's all essay, it's...
Yeah, it's all 20-paragraph essay questions that you gotta read. So... but the ex, I was like, so what are you going to do your junior year? What kind of history classes does he have? He says, they don't. I said, he's like, this is it. You can't do any. I guess I can do government, and there's like AP government, AP civil stuff, and it's like, oh, okay. Like, why don't you just take 3 math classes? It's like, no, so I can fail 3 classes. Yeah.
Do they have any like industrial tech stuff there? Take some welding and shit like that.
I see. That was my out. I did all that. I took parts off the car and showed him like how the engines work, and what I didn't take like major shit off. But and he's just like, wow, I didn't know that's how that worked. You guys aren't curious. I mean, because there's a few of the kids that live on farms that are like hopping up their trucks and putting the, axle raising kits and suspensions on them. But really, that's just not a thing anymore with kids. Everyone wants to stare at a fucking computer screen or something, and that's what they do.
Well, do they have that? Do they have like computer programming classes or anything, or web design, all that shit?
I don't know. I really don't know. I mean, he likes English a lot too. He likes the novels. Like he said, oh, The Great Gatsby's, that was awesome. It's like, oh, there's lots of books like that. You can take whole courses based on one of those books.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
Depends on how deep you want to go. Well, but then it comes back to like, what can you do with all that? What kind of money can you? I say, oh, nothing. Nobody pays for that. The guy who's making a living talking about that's the guy teaching your class.
Was he knocking out a foreign language at least?
Yeah, he's in Spanish.
Oh, okay.
I don't know if he's awake. I don't know what year it's in. He's doing Spanish 3, Spanish 2. I don't know, something. He talks to the guys down at the restaurant we go to. They exchange a few words. I don't know what they're saying.
Vámonos.
No, they it's all basic stuff. But they'll ask him
fuego.
questions and he'll say stuff back, and then they try to get me on the act, and it's like they'll say something to me in Spanish.
Gringo.
I'll start talking French to him. Pourquoi? I don't understand. Oh. Yeah, I was never.
No, you just need to meet him the other way and start speaking Portuguese.
Yeah. Start rambling in Portuguese. There's so many languages around here that people speak. I mean, you got all the Asian ones, and then just any Russian language, variants of Russian. You hear that all the time. Go to any convenience store. There'll be 2 guys in the parking lot having a loud conversation in either Russian, Romanian, Serbian, something.
That was a weird thing I learned from my professor this year. He was talking about, he worked with some guy who had written a paper that we were analyzing, and he was from Norway, and he said like Norwegians hate it when you call them Scandinavian.
Oh, really? Okay.
So if you want to like refer to like the Scandinavian countries, you refer to them as the Norse countries, like Norse mythology.
Okay. So why do the Norwegians hate that? Do they feel like
I
they
have
get
no
oppressed
yeah.
by the other ones, or
Probably because isn't Norway the one that's like it's like on the other side of like that sea or whatever?
is Norway the one that's right next to Russia, where they've
Yeah.
tried to invade them like 50,000 times?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah,
And they have the most deadly sniper in the world was Norwegian.
yeah.
Um,
Is that the
Yeah.
White Death?
yeah, something like that.
The guy who put fucking snow in his mouth so you couldn't see his breath.
Yeah, he was dedicated. Yeah, the Norwegians are not as. They never seemed to be as footloose and fancy free as the other Scandinavian or the Norse countries. I guess I don't know.
Well, see, that's like I'm pretty sure like the Swedish wouldn't give a shit, but it's just Norwegians. They give a fuck if you call them Scandinavian.
I know in Norway you're allowed to piss in public.
Oh, that's good.
Yeah, because there's just why build plumbing? You just take a leak somewhere. Like here, if you get caught pissing on the side of your house, you go on the fucking child molesters list as some kind of pervert. It's like I wasn't waving my tallywhacker into traffic. I was taking a leak. But okay.
Well, it's probably good for that giant marine base they have there.
Yeah.
They have
Oh, they
like
still got that there.
yeah, there's just like giant. There's like a mountain with just nothing but like U.S. tanks inside of it.
Oh, is that the Russian insurance policy?
Pretty much, yeah.
Like, yeah, if you shoot at these people, you're shooting America. So, whenever you're ready. I'm surprised Trump hasn't closed that down yet. Terrible waste of money. Got to close that. Got to keep Vladimir happy. Oh, speaking of which, did you hear what happened over Alaska?
No.
We sent the F-22s. There was differing reports. There was the general news, and there's a few websites I go to where you can find out. They very aggressively flew right at a Russian bomber, locked radars on it, and said, if you come any further into our airspace, we're just going to shoot you down. We're not even fucking around anymore. It wasn't one of those things where we pull up next to you and go like this and it's like, go home. Like, no, they're like flipping on radars. I mean, it's a 19.
They have a target lock, sir.
Oh, yeah. And again, this is a 1955 era. This is the Tupolev Bear bombers, the one with the contra-rotating props.
Yeah.
It's like on F-22s are flying after that. It's like, oh, they're fucked. As soon as they fire, those things are going to sink like a rock. If the missiles fire, because isn't the F-22 the one that's like they just killed it? Because it's like, how much money is this costing us?
Did they kill that one? Is there a newer one that's even more expensive?
Yeah, the F-35. The Lightning.
Yeah.
That's the one. That's the Albatross that's still going on. The Universal Fighter.
Yeah, because that's the one they're building the helmet for, where you can just see through the plane, right?
Right.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah, and it's going to have a VTOL version and a regular flight version, and the Army and the Navy and the Air Force and everyone's going to use it. And like, yeah, good at everything.
What's our airplane budget? $300 million. How many did two of those cost? $320 million.
We are over budget. And really, the most important question in the world you have to ask yourself is, how many planes do we have that are already way superior than everyone else's? Pretty much every plane currently flying we have is way superior. The training, the equipment is far superior to anyone else's. Who's making next generation stuff that can even come close to either one of these planes? Oh, no one. No one has that kind of fucking money.
Well, Russia can make old stuff that can perform just as well, but...
Yeah, well, by itself it can. But yeah, can it shoot down planes, 500 miles away or over the horizon?
Well, that's kind of the boondoggle about these high-end airplanes. Like the way rules of engagement work, you can't shoot at a target you can't see.
Yeah, supposedly.
I mean, that's how it's supposed to work. It's in that Boyd book. It's why he designed or worked together to make the F-16 the way it was, because like the F-16 was a better version of the F-15 Eagle, but it was just like half the price.
It's still one of the best ones in the world.
Yeah. And so basically, like a lot of the things they like cut is like, so you have like that, F-14 Tomcat, where like everyone thought was like a cool fucking plane because it had all that shit on there. It was like it can gauge enemies 10 miles away, it can take on 20 enemies at once, and then like it has the what do you call those, the swing wings,
Variable geometry fighters.
Yeah, and then so all that shit was cool, but like you look at the repair cost and the durability of it, and it was just like it was just a boondoggle. Because like the first, like, okay, what's the weakest point of the airplane? It's like the part where it's the wings have to switch to 2 different modes. Like that's the weakest part of the airplane.
The main feature of the aircraft.
The thing that keeps the thing in the fucking air.
Yeah.
And so like, yeah, so they dug down said like, so like you can only like engage enemies that you can see. So that kind of like nullifies the whole like engage enemies at 10 miles thing. That's just something a company that makes missiles and radars tell you to make you spend more money on an airplane.
Yeah.
And then so like also missiles, like they're only good in certain like windows. It's only good to like fire at the enemy. Like really what you're engaging your enemy is with a machine gun.
Yeah.
An airplane. Like that's what they call like a dogfight. Like that's in dogfighting range, you're not using your missiles to shoot at an enemy, you are using your machine gun. And so thus the most important thing an aircraft needs is the turning ability. So that's why like the F-16, like all of its surface is like basically meant to turn the plane as fast as possible. And so if you can turn faster than your opponent, then you win. So yeah, all these modern airplanes, like they kind of what this whole thing is like, the design feature stuff is like, oh, it's almost invisible to enemy radar, which that's a good thing. I don't know about its turning radius. I haven't done all that stuff, but yeah, it does. But they also like want these planes to do multi-role stuff. They want it to be like a Warthog, a fighter plane, a bomber, and all that stuff.
That's the problem. Is they're trying to make these things all. I think the F-22 uses vectored thrust.
Yeah.
That I know those things can probably turn on a dime. I mean, the F-16s at the air show here, they can literally hover. Like they do weird shit where the engine drops to the ground like this, and they just float along the runway, and they do something, and everything, it just takes off again. But yeah, these anyway.
But yeah, like the F-16 is like actually it's like slower than most airplanes, but what it makes up for is its turning radius. So it doesn't really matter how fast you get to the fight; you still need to turn to get behind the guy.
But yeah, that was interesting that they finally started super aggressively engaging the Alaskan airspace shit. Which, I mean, they're putting those out there as big. All the bombers are just big targets, so they know what they're doing. Since they're not sneaking one in with a 1950s era bomber. But yeah, that was interesting. Those were actually civilian aircraft in Russia at one time too. Those were passenger planes. Yeah, they made same engines, just put a passenger body on it. Well, I mean, a bomber is just a passenger plane. It's just the bays are used for different things.
Yeah, because there's something about those engines that make them last forever. It's like because like the counter rotating props like keep the vibrations down, so it's actually the engine lasts like forever.
They don't torque. They cancel the torque, twisting out. They're incredibly loud though because the tips break the sound barrier. Yeah, and so they're just like whips, like crack, 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 constantly.
But sonic booms.
Well, they can go. They can go. What did they say about those? They could almost go as fast as a Stratofortress.
Yeah,
because those engines could just twist them through the air. And Stratofortress was all jets. Those all fuel tanks, fuel tanks and bomb bays. So I think how many inches does that thing have? 8. Trying to think.
It's because like 2 per each pylon, and there's 2 pylons each side, right?
I think there's 2 pylons. So yeah, it'd be 8. Again, just a big target 5 years after it was made.
That's like the C-130. Like they keep trying to replace that, but the C-130 just ends up being like the cheapest solution.
Yeah, it lasts forever. I mean, those came out in 57. Yeah. They're still using. And they can take off on like gravel roads, and you can land them on gravel roads and shit.
Yeah.
They're perfect for everything. Except, what do they not do well? I don't know. They had a lot of problems with them.
They're just cargo planes.
Yeah, well, they were doing weird shit like putting what was Desert One gonna do to rescue the hostage? Oh, they put JTOWs on it backwards. Essentially, it's like it's not how quick we can get it up in the air. It's how can we make it stop, and it just ripped the wings off because it wasn't designed to take that kind of stress.
Well, yeah, they had that one. I think it's like a Blue Angels version of it or whatever, where it has like rockets on the side to
Fat Albert.
Yeah.
Yeah, those are made. Those will help it to take off very quickly, but they tried to reverse those, and because they had to land in a very short. I don't know what their thinking was with the Iranian hostage rescue, but I know it was a disaster. It just killed a bunch of guys. But yeah, that's interesting stuff. We'll have to see what happens. More World War III is. What did the Bureau of Atomic Scientists? Aren't we closer to Armageddon than we ever have been consistently?
I don't know the measures by which you're speaking.
Well, remember, the doomsday clock is how many minutes till midnight?
Yeah.
Let me check this out to be sure. Because I know, I mean, of course, as soon as Trump got elected president, they moved it to
6 minutes to midnight.
I think it's even closer than that.
Is that an actual 6 minutes?
Bulletin of the Atomic Science. Oh, we're at 2 minutes to midnight right now.
Okay.
I don't know. I'm trying to think of how close. Well, your website sucks, guys. Oh, what's the... In 2010, it was 6 minutes to midnight. In 1991, it was 17 minutes to midnight. And let's see, when was it? In 1953, it was 2 minutes to midnight. So, like the height of the Cold War. So, yeah, now we're 2 minutes to midnight. But I've heard different things about that, too. A lot of people's, because it says it's the Bulletin of the Atomic Scientists, so you think, oh, shit, these are scientists, but it's become really politicized over the years. So they're just essentially a bunch of leftists who just don't like Donald Trump. And now we're 2 minutes to midnight.
But what about peace in Korea?
Yeah. What about that? Was that supposed to? Is that happening this week? Where are they talking?
No, it's in summer.
Oh, in the summer. Okay.
It's I think in June. They're looking for fucking what's that country? I can't remember the name of the country.
What do they do?
No, it's a peace talks in a different country that's near.
Oh, Malaysia or something?
Yeah, something like that. I can't remember.
Myanmar?
Singapore?
That could be.
Yeah, I think Singapore.
I don't know.
Is Singapore a country or is that a city? I just suddenly forgot.
It's a city-state.
Okay, both. Okay, we're good.
It's ruled by a satrap and co-governed by a satrapy. No, those are the old... what were those? Byzantine empires had those really elaborate leadership structures. That's how you know your country's dying, when you create this, insanely complex leadership structures. Like, oh, you don't just have a king anymore. You've got like, oh, we have a council of elders, and they are the rotating presidency. Everyone gets 1 month to make a decision. It's like, oh, okay, we're doomed, right? This is right before the fall of Rome.
Council of Elders. Like, what is a fucking Lord of the Ring novel?
What was the? Who were the people in Battlestar? Was it the Quorum of the 12 or something?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like, yeah, that's going to be effective. That's why the Cylons won. Shitty leadership. Well, in the new one, it was because everyone was corrupt, but which, yeah, probably truer than what we know. But, what the hell were we going to talk about?
Well, I got Frostpunk and too much wrestling.
Okay, let's talk about Frostpunk.
All right, Frostpunk is a new game by, I can't remember their name.
Okay,
So
sure, appreciate the plug.
yeah. As long as you get the name, you can't forget Frostpunk,
That's a standout name.
which is basically steampunk, but
Yeah.
with frost. Because it's like a late 1800s, so like industrialized era London, but like with like automatons and shit like that. So the steampunk aesthetic.
Okay.
But there's like a new ice age, or at least some part in the game. I think someone says like a bunch of volcanoes went off in the south, so it's basically like a nuclear winter, but with volcanoes rather than nuclear arms.
Okay.
So people set off from London to and head somewhere. I'm not really exactly sure where they head, but they are trying to survive. And they end up stopping in this place, and they just have a giant furnace that they keep going with coal, and then that like heats the town.
Okay.
And so you then have to like construct the town to keep people alive. So you need to like gather food. You need to collect wood and coal to power things and build things, and also steel. You also get to make decrees, where you like make new laws, which will give you access. And it's kind of an either or thing. Like there's kind of two options for each decision, and like you have to kind of weigh the costs and benefits of each one. So that's kind of like the where like the rub is. So if you want more labor, guess what? You can enact child labor.
Okay. 18th century.
The first thing I did, because I thought I was going to suck at the game, was like I immediately enacted cemeteries. I was like, oh, people are going to die left and right. We're going to need cemeteries, because there's a lot of things you have to balance. So like the first thing you have to balance is just like heat. You have to make sure that people have heat so they can live, and you build around the heater. And so like there's kind of like the more levels you get out, the less heat it expands. So you have to like upgrade your heater too and stuff like that. But there's a difference between like the heat, because usually you build the homes near the heater so that they're livable, and
right.
But the work is generally on the outside, so people are more likely to get sick when they're not in heated areas. So that's in their work areas. So you can like later on upgrade to have like heaters in the work areas. And then you have hope and discontent. Those are the two like levels you have to maintain. So if you have high hope, then it really doesn't matter how much like discontent there is. So it's like okay, but like if they're reversed, then you might have like a revolt, and they might like kick you out of being the captain of the colony or whatever.
Oh, okay.
Because
this looks pretty cool.
I found an automaton. It's just this weird walking clock monster thing that collects coal for you all night. Because you can also enact a 24-hour workday if you need it for emergencies.
Well, that's fun for everyone.
But I have it so there's a normal day, like it starts at 8 a.m. and then it goes for 10 hours, so it's a 10-hour workday. So like after that, like nobody's gathering more coal or wood or anything like that, but you might not have enough coal to last the whole night or stuff like that. But I found this automaton, and it can work all day. It doesn't matter. So it collects coal at night, so everybody stays warm.
I like these little updates that come up. A child injured in work accident. How should we change the labor laws?
Yeah, see, I went I went the other way. I didn't enact child labor. I went the other way, and I enacted we had like special, it was like basically like child care centers. So like while people were at work, their children were being taken care of and they had a place to live and stuff like that. So then people were happy because of that. But then like you don't have your workforce is smaller now.
Yeah.
But people are happy about that. So that was fine. But then later on what you can do is because you did that, you can then have the children like start to like work alongside people to like gain knowledge of what they're doing, so like medical stuff or scientist stuff. So then you'll have more like engineers later on because they're being taught things, but it also like helps with the workflow. So it's kind of like you're not just sending children to work, you're sending them to learn, but they're also working. So like it works out more in your benefit for that. Also,
like apprentices more than
yeah.
Okay.
Because there's two different kinds of workforces. There's just workers, those people just do stuff, and then you have engineers, which are like. So you have to balance it correctly because there's only so many people you can have in a work area. But if it's like all engineers, then like no work's getting done. But if it's all workers, then the smaller percentage of the work is getting done. So you have to balance it so to ensure that like 100% of the work is getting done.
Oh, okay.
But yeah, I was doing really good. Like, had a really high hope. Discontent was low. I had a couple of scouting units going out looking for stuff. And and then all of a sudden one of the objectives was like to find another city. And we found another city and everyone was fucking dead. Like they all died of starvation or frostbite and all that shit. So then like I lost like all my hope. They lost all hope and decided that somebody started a group that like we need to go back to London. And so that's where I am right now is I have to like stop the people from revolting and wanting to go to London. Which has become very complicated. Because my hope is basically all the way down, my discontent's like middle of the way, and then I opened up a new skill tree, which I could either use faith or order, and I chose order. So I have like more cops and stuff in the area. They're like keeping things in order, but that like creates other problems too. But so, it's a pretty interesting game. I think you might like it. There are different scenarios, so it's not necessarily like a play forever game. The main scenario I think is just like survive, but then there's like other scenarios. Kind of like the whole like Londoner situation where you have to like try to quell a rebellion or other stuff like that.
Oh, it looks kind of cool.
Yeah, and it has that steampunk aesthetic, and then some people are kind of compare it to Snowpiercer, which I guess I could kind of see that.
Yeah.
It's like a Snowpiercer where just a giant furnace in the middle of the city.
It's a neat idea. Like I said, it looks cool.
The game they did before this is called This War of Mine, which is also kind of dour.
Is that the one set in the Serbian War?
Yeah.
Okay.
And like that was another where like you had a base and you had to take chances of like leaving your house to go collect things in the war zone and coming back, and then like you had to set up your base